Namaskar, hello and welcome viewers. You're watching the special presentation of Sansad TV with your host Kriti Mishra, and today we are in an exclusive conversation with MOS Prime Minister's Office, Science and Technology Minister, Minister of State with Independent Charge, Department of Space, Atomic Energy, and also Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Dr. Jitendra Singh. So, welcome to Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's begin talking about Chandrayaan. Now, the world is eagerly waiting for the success of Chandrayaan 3. So, how has it placed India and how has it further cemented its position in the global space economy?
No, I think Chandrayaan series by itself gives India a distinct place as far as the space sector is concerned. Because even though we started off much later compared to several other countries like the USA and the then USSR. For example, when we started our space programs somewhere in early 1960s, USA and USSR were already on the verge of landing a human being on the surface of moon, and USA actually did that in 1969 in the form of Neil Armstrong, where we were in a very primitive stage. I mean, even socially we were just singing nursery rhymes dedicated to moon, and our scientists were so devoid of resources that you could see the archive pictures of Sarabhai's team carrying the launcher vehicle on the carriage of his bicycle. So it's been a quantum jump, A. B. qualitatively. One is quantitative, the jump as I mentioned. The qualitative means that even though America had landed a human being on the surface of moon and they were much ahead of us, it was our Chandrayaan series which brought the evidence of the presence of water molecules on the surface of moon, which none of them had done. And that was a startling discovery for the whole world, for the entire space fraternity, because the presence of H2O gives a direct or an indirect hint of a possibility, even though remotely or may not be, but still it gives you a thought to think about the possibility of a human habitat being possible there. So this evidence came for the first time not from any of those missions by Chandrayaan 1, and this is an extension of that. So Chandrayaan 3 has, as far as our research findings is concerned, it will go to the next level. Also because the landing this time is on the southern polar area, and so for the first time any space mission or spacecraft is going to hit that part of the moon. Earlier on it was around the equator. And the significance of this from the research point of view also is that this area has depicted pictures of craters of different formats and different shapes, which we assume might be containing water. So it will give us a larger freedom to conduct experiments about the presence of water, presence of H2O. And H2O is not only oxygen for the human habitat, but also hydrogen as a clean source of energy. So that's going to be a vital, that is why the entire world is looking up to the inputs that would be accruing from Chandrayaan 3. Thirdly, also that of late, ever since Prime Minister Modi, as was popularly described in the media, unlocked the space sector. Yeah. You know, for the last 60, 70 years, I don't know why, we were functioning behind a wheel of secrecy, as a result of which we were devoid of resources. We had no dearth of human resource. As I mentioned, the Sarabhai and his team had so much of confidence in themselves, that they had so many dreams in their eyes, and they had so much of perseverance and confidence that they could use a bicycle as a career. But that was because they devoid of, so we couldn't move forward. So ever since this was opened up to public-private participation about 4 years back, there is a huge transformation happening in the space sector. A, that now we have private participation in a huge number, we have more than 140 startups, and qualitatively some of the state-of-art startups, some of them one of the best in the world. They are not only contributing technologically, but they are also offering younger inputs to the space research and also adding to the space economy, as you mentioned. And even in this Chandrayaan, almost 50% of the contribution has been made by the industry. So I think, as I also said in those declaration remarks that day, that we owe to thank Prime Minister Modi for having unlocked the gates of Sriharikota. And the whole media was there. There were 1,000 media persons watching this there on the spot. Earlier on, the media was forbidden from entering. They would have never peeped inside the gates of the Satish Dhawan Space Center. So we have actually followed the mantra of integrated approach, as Prime Minister Modi always keeps reiterating, whole of government, and I would say whole of government plus whole of nation. So the industry is there, the academia is there, the startups are there, the researchers are there, the students, huge number of students of school and colleges from all across the country were there, and media, such a huge presence. So because then all of them feel that it's their they own it, they are the stakeholders, and in one way or the other they contribute to it.
Absolutely, sir. And as you said that Chandrayaan 3 will open new vistas for us. But going ahead, sir, and talking about the foreign satellite launch. Now, out of the 424 satellite launches in India so far, 389 alone were in last 9 years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sir, going ahead, what are the opportunities for India in space commercial sector?
No, I think you rightly mentioned, but in a single sentence, I would rather sum it up saying that very soon space economy is going to be a very important component of the Indian economy in future. So next 25 years, as we look into the Amrit Kal, of course, how is India going to rise to that pedestal? Of course, there has to be some value addition to the economy. Where is that value addition going to come from? It's going to come from the unexplored resources. Unexplored resources besides space is, for example, the Himalayan resources. It is this government which initiated Aroma mission, lavender cultivation. Prime Minister spoke about it in Mann Ki Baat for about 6-7 minutes. Nearly 3,000 agri startups have got into it. They are making fortune out of it. The other we know is the coastal area. We have 7,500 kilometer long coast, longest in the world, and thereby also Prime Minister spoke about deep sea mission from the ramparts of the Red Fort in his. So these are the areas which were inherent to India, which were exclusive to India, which were India's exclusive heritage assets, but not explored. But they are very wealthy, very rich. This is one aspect. The other is the cutting edge technology, the neo technology, which includes space. Nobody took us seriously as far as space is concerned. As I told you, when they were on the verge of landing on moon, they thought of us as someone who could only sing folklores and folk songs about moon. Today, our inputs are being utilized by NASA. Not only that, many of the boys and girls working in NASA, the premier institute of America, are the pass outs from our Trivandrum Institute, which is one of the world's premier space teaching institute now. And therefore, space has not only given us a place of esteem in the world arena, it is also adding to economy. And as you said, 90% of the satellites, foreign satellites, were launched in the last 9 years, and they are from all those countries which were ahead of us. We have, even from USA, for example, we have earned more than nearly $250 million by launching their satellites.
Yeah.
So there was a time when everybody looked up to USA for cues in space. Today, we are in a position to provide them facility. So that is our position. Similarly, in the recent visit of Prime Minister Modi to Washington DC, one of the agreements solicited Indian astronaut to accompany to their international space station, because they believe that our astronaut would be able to add value to them. So now we are equal partners, even with those who thought they were ahead of us, or the world thought they were ahead of us. And similarly, they are also adding to our economy. We have almost all the major countries from Europe whose satellites are being launched. Incidentally, this happens to be the year of G20. Yeah. Virtually all the G20 countries are using our launching facilities for their satellites, whoever are producing. And I think roughly in the years to come, we could be a 1 trillion space economy.
Absolutely, sir. And since you mentioned about G20, during our presidency, so what are the opportunities for us for forging bilateral partnership in the space sector? What are the priorities for the government during our presidency as far as space sector is concerned?
I think most of the G20 countries who have engaged with us, we have had the final G20 ministerial in science technology. We have won the mission innovation in next 2 days. All of them have shown interest in India's space missions, and they want to somehow pick up cues from us, also want to collaborate, and also want to be led by us. So now India under Prime Minister Modi is being seen as a country or a nation which could lead the rest. I think that is also a change, and they are ready to be led. Now it's up to us how far we can lead them, how far we have the capacity to lead them. That is, and everybody has to contribute to that. As Prime Minister Modi said, that citizen kartavya in the Panch Mantra. So that way, I think space is one sector which has not only fascinated all the G20 countries, which has also motivated them to believe that India is possibly the best to partner with. Now here also we are among the 4 after Soviet Union, or Russia, and USA and China, and we are the most likable or preferred partners. That is one thing. The other is that most of the countries do not have the kind of facility that we have. So they are also keen to send their researchers, their scholars, And incidentally, the manner in which the esteem of India has gone up under the Modi regime in the last 8-9 years, many of Indian diaspora want to come back. And you will be glad to know, and I think this is also an occasion to share through your medium, that we have very recently launched a program called Vaibhav, that is Vaishmik return program for the Indian diaspora who want to come back and collaborate, or the Indian young scientists who had gone out few years back, with a possible sense of desperation that there were not enough opportunities before 2014, but now they want to come back. So we have launched programs in order to link them with the Indian institutions over here, so that they could also carry forward their work within India and enriching both India as well as their own resources.
Absolutely, sir. And also you made a very important point about private partnership. Now, according to 2021 Space Tech Analytics, India was the 6th largest player and had 3.6% companies, the space tech companies. Sir, you've often talked about leveraging the private partnership in the space sector. We also saw the space policy. Going ahead, how do you further want to cement this relationship between ISRO and private companies?
No, I firmly believe that if we have to grow beyond this, the demarcation between private and public has to be done away with. And in the times to come, there is nothing going to be like private or public, because we have to move on very wholesomely, holistically. And it's not out of any luxury, it's the only option now available. And just as you saw the magic happening just in 4 years, the space sector in India has undergone a dramatic change. I mean, till about 5 years back, it was hardly discussed. If there was a launching in Sriharikota, there was a remote corner in a newspaper which somebody read, some not read, and that too, if there was a mishap, it would be read. Now there is so much of mass interest. That's because we have opened up to all the stakeholders, including the private. So it has to be academia, research, startups, industry, and industry right from beginning. I firmly believe this industry linkage with startups has to be from day one, because that would ensure sustainability of startups, because otherwise you would not be able to sustain them, because unless you link them with a lucrative source of livelihood. And I am glad to share with you, the last 3-4 years, we have had a huge private participation with ISRO, and they are drawn from all parts of the country. We have startups right from the northernmost states of India, down of course south it was already there. The space was technology was more popular compared to now. And they are coming out with some wonderful ideas, and some of the projects are the first of its kind in the world. We have the Sky Route, we have the Angan. So I think, and now they are, earlier on, most of the startups were venturing into rockets launching.
That's right.
Now they are also trying to get into translational technology, how to transfer use the technology in other ways. The space scrap is one of the latest areas where you are, you address the concern about scrap all along because of all the satellites and rockets in the sky, and we are getting offers of startups there also. So I think they are ready to contribute to India's space economy and thereby the overall economy of India, so that India, I am sure, is going to assume a global, it's already become a global player, it is going to be a global leader. And the ascent to that, when you say 2047 India will be top,
yes,
I would rather have the confidence and courage to say that ascent has started via space. That journey of ascent has begun through space.
So that's a very interesting way to put it ahead. But sir, again talking about the policy, we had the space policy 2023, but there is a sense that perhaps it has to be followed by a suitable legislation. We also had the draft space activities bill, which of course lapsed with the outgoing Lok Sabha in 2019. Sir, do we see a new bill?
No, I will not hasten to make a judgment on that, because that's for all of us to think together. But the very fact that we have moved in that direction is itself a statement. And mind you, the entire nation had reconciled with the fact that ISRO would continue like this. There was not even a demand to open it up for the private sector, because we had got conditioned to this, that it will function like that. Some remote Sriharikotas doing something, nobody knows what is happening, and with their meager resources, they are operating within their own four walls. But when this was brought before the Prime Minister Modi, because he has the knack to take out of box decisions, to break the taboos of the past. It was because of his intervention that we could come out with a new draft of the India Space Policy 2023. We could also set up a PSU in space called New Space India Limited, and now we have an interface called Interspace, which is doing a wonderful job of connecting private sector with ISRO. And I think if they move on the manner in which they are moving, and so much of interest from the private sector, that very soon India would be launching, or in next few years, launching one satellite every fortnight.
One satellite every fortnight?
In the years to come. I mean, if we move on, if the same pace continues about the private participation.
Let's hope that pace continues, sir. But before we talk about science and technology, sir, after Chandrayaan, what's next for India? What's the next agenda in the space sector?
No, Gaganyaan is already on the track. It got delayed. In fact, we had a very ambitious plan to have it there on the 75th year. This 2020, it couldn't happen.
COVID.
Yeah, because COVID took away 2-3 years. In fact, right when COVID struck, our astronauts were undergoing training in the Gregory Institute in Moscow. So they had to be called back. Then everything went haywire. And now again is on the track. So we have to send 2 preliminary missions, because sending up an Indian human being is as important as getting him back safe, and that is in the interest of all of us. So we would make sure that the landing back of this human mission happens smoothly, safely. So for that, we will have one unmanned mission as a trial, possibly towards the end of this year. Then another one which would carry a non-living human being in the form of a robo, and significantly it has been decided it will be a female robo called Vayomitra. So we will have a female astronaut, but not a living being. So when she comes back safe, lands, then learning from these 2 experiences, we would actually be sending a Indian human being up there in space.
Fantastic, sir. All eyes on that. But let's also talk about science and technology, and we have to talk about Global Innovation Index. Sir, from 81st position in 2015 to 40th position in 2022, India certainly has leapfrogged. But sir, our investment in R&D, that perhaps is an area of concern. So we spend only 0.7% of our GDP. Look at Israel, it spends 4.5%. How do we better that situation?
No, I think that too has been taken care of in the last 9 years. Our budget allocations have increased more than 100%. More than 100%. I have the exact figures, both in DSC, Department of Science, Technology, and Biotechnology, and CSIR. If it was just, for example, if it was 1,000 crore somewhere, it is now almost 10,000 crore. So that is one part. The other part is that opening up to the private sector also reinforces our finances, our resources. So that is the second part. The third part is that, as I said, we had huge talent here waiting to happen, but the milieu was not enabling. What has happened during these 9 years of Prime Minister Modi's regime, that he has ensured that we have an enabling milieu, which enables each of the scientific workers or the innovators or the startups to give his best or give her best to the best of her or his potential. That's the reason from mere 350, 400 startups, we are now more than 1 lakh and so many unicorns. So it's happened because, of course, on the one hand, the R&D allocations have also increased, though they will still not be as comparable to USA, but they are now many more times higher. The second is giving, I think there is a democratization of the scientific talent now, because earlier on they didn't have resources. Now we have the resources, we have the enabling. There is opportunity for startups of all hues and cries, of all colors, of all age groups. So that is the other, and that is in a way, in totality, enriching our scientific prowess as well as esteem as a nation.
Absolutely, sir. So before we end this conversation, the Cabinet has cleared the National Quantum Mission. The focus is on emerging technologies like AI. What does it mean for the common man? How will the life get transformed?
Yeah, in 2 ways. See, National Quantum Mission was launched about 2 months back, and we are among the very few countries which have done this. The difference now is that we are at par with other countries as far as our technology updating is concerned. It's not that, earlier on the common trend was that a technology would happen in America, for example, they would apply it, it would become popular. After many years, then we would hit upon the idea of adopting it. Like for example, it happened in case of television. Television was there in USA in 1950s, and the presidential debates of the candidates were happening in 1960. The famous debate, which tilted the favors which tilted the tables in favor of John Kennedy, was a TV debate between John Kennedy and Richard Nixon. Whereas we didn't know. In fact, when we were told that there was a debate happening which had increased the fortunes of John Kennedy, it was all confusion. What's it all about? And we started hearing or watching TV only somewhere around 1970 or so, that too with half an hour Chitrahar and something like that. So we were so much, same was the case with computer, but now it's not so. Whatever technology is available anywhere else in the world is available here. Same here, quantum is just coming and we are there. We are among those 4 or 5 countries which are still in R&D. They are not fully applicable and we are also not. So nobody will be able to steal a march over us. And as far as the common man is concerned, quantum technology again is going to change the whole lot. It's going to increase the pace of our information. It's going to be of huge importance to the media persons as well. It will be more specific. It will be faster, it will be more confidential. You can't the encrypted scripts, you can't unfold them. Even here you can't in the existing, but there is almost impossible. If here it takes you about maybe lakh attempts to open the encrypted script, if at all, there it would take you, we were estimating that about 3,000 lakh attempts. So all this is going to transform, and then the flow of information will be digital. Right. When there is quantum technology. It's not like in waves as you used to hear in the radio about 30 years back. In the short wave it will go up, down. It will not be, it will be steady. Then quantum technology will help in medical, in healthcare, in the form of radiations, detection of tumors, and it will be very specific in treatment of various lesions. So it's going to help security, defense, huge contribution of. So I think it's going to transform the entire approach towards a technology-driven way of life.
Absolutely, sir. Let's hope for that paradigm shift that we have in our country. But thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you so much for
talking to us.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, viewers, that's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Goodbye for now from my side.